Mid-15th century. A period of instability began in the Hungarian kingdom. The fact is that in 1439, the Hungarian King Albert, who was also the Duke of Austria, as well as the King of Germany and Bohemia, suddenly died. The problem was that Albert's unborn son was to become the heir to the Hungarian throne. Despite the fact that a few months after Albert's death, his wife Elizabeth safely gave birth to a son, who received the name Ladislaus the Posthumous, the Hungarian nobility was not happy with the prospect of a baby king on the throne. The fact is that the Ottoman Empire, which was rapidly expanding its territory, came close to the Hungarian borders, and the Kingdom of Hungary needed a leader who could stop the Ottomans. To avoid civil strife, the Hungarian nobility decided to invite the King of Poland, the Ladislaus III, to the throne. The fact that at the time of his ascension to the Hungarian throne, the Ladislaus was only 15 years old and, for some reason, in the eyes of the Hungarian nobility, he was better than the newborn son of the deceased Albrecht II deserves special mention. However, the problem with the inexperience of the new King of Hungary was solved quite simply, since despite the fact that the Ladislaus moved to Hungary and never returned to the Kingdom of Poland, the Hungarian army was controlled on his behalf by the governor John Hunyadi. For the sake of fairness, it should be mentioned that, being simultaneously the Polish and Hungarian king, the Ladislaus could theoretically use the military power of the two states to combat the Ottoman threat. Meanwhile, the once powerful Byzantine Empire, whose territory had been reduced to the outskirts of Constantinople and Morea under Ottoman attacks, was in dire straits. It was obvious that the fall of Constantinople, and with it the Byzantine Empire, was only a matter of time. In an attempt to save his state from imminent death, the Byzantine Emperor John Palaiologos, hoping for help from European monarchs, agreed to the signing of the Florentine Union in 1439, which actually subordinated the Orthodox Church to the Catholic Church. After the signing of the Union, Pope Eugene IV declared a crusade against the Ottoman Empire, which, however, did not lead to anything, since the European monarchs were not eager to send their armies to save Constantinople. Meanwhile, the Ottoman Sultan Murad II did not sit idly by, but invaded the territory of the Serbian Despotate, whose ruler, Durad Brankovic, was an unreliable person in the eyes of the Sultanate, since he was a vassal of both the Ottoman Empire and the Hungarian kingdom. Unable to resist the Ottoman invasion, Durad Brankovic was forced to flee to Hungary in search of help. Soon the Ottomans managed to establish control over almost the entire Serbian Despotate without encountering serious resistance. In turn, the Ladislaus III, perfectly understanding the plans of the Ottoman Sultan, sent a large army led by John Hunyadi to help the garrison of Belgrade, which was blocking the path of the Ottoman army. The Ottoman army, having completed the conquest of Serbia, reached the outskirts of Belgrade in the spring of 1440, but faced with fierce resistance from the local garrison in the fall it was forced to end the siege and return to its territory. In turn, John Hunyadi, not allowing the Ottomans to occupy Belgrade, began to act more decisively. In 1442, in the vicinity of Hermannstadt, he managed to defeat the Sanjak Bey of Vidin and thereby liberate Wallachia from the rule of the Ottoman Empire. In the summer of 1442, at the Battle of the Iron Gate, John Hunyadi was able to defeat the army of the Beyler Bey of Rumelia Sihabedin Pasha, which greatly weakened Ottoman influence in the Balkans. The successes of the Hungarian army in the fight against the Ottomans led to the creation of an anti-Ottoman alliance, which, in addition to the King of Poland and Hungary, the Ladislaus III, included the despot of Serbia, Durad Brankovic, and the Wallachian ruler, Vlad II Dracul. The army of the anti-Ottoman alliance was led by John Hunyadi, who was an experienced and successful commander, thanks to which he was able to inflict a number of painful defeats on the Ottoman army at the Battle of Niš in November 1443, as well as at the Battle of Kunovica in January 1444. The defeat of the Ottoman army in Europe was taken advantage of by the Karamanid Bey Ibrahim II, who rebelled against the power of the Sultan. Ibrahim Bey's army, without encountering serious resistance, managed to establish control over the cities of Ankara, Beypazari and Karahisar. Knowing full well that he would not be able to fight simultaneously with the Hungarian-Polish-Serbian coalition in Europe and the rebel Ibrahim Bey in Asia, Murad II would be forced on July 12, 1444 to sign the Szeged Peace Treaty, under the terms of which the Ottoman Empire recognized the independence of the Serbian Despotate and pledged to pay the Serbs received 200,000 gold guilders for the restoration of fortresses destroyed during the war. The ruler of Wallachia, Vlad Dracul, had to continue paying tribute to the Ottomans, but at the same time he did not have to appear in person at the Ottoman court. Albania came under the control of the Hungarian kingdom, and Hungary, in turn, pledged not to invade the territory of the Ottoman Empire for 10 years. It is important to mention that the Ottomans first of all needed peace, since the Sultan needed troops to fight Ibrahim Bey, so the Sultan gave Durad Brankovic a letter from his wife, who was also the daughter of the Serbian despot. In this letter, Mara Brankovic asked her father to facilitate peace in exchange for the return of important fortresses captured by the Ottomans and the allocation of funds for their restoration. Brankovic handed over peace applications to King Ladislaw, saying that the Serbian Despotate agreed to the conditions proposed by the Ottomans. In turn, Ladislaw, although he was quite young, understood perfectly well that even if Brankovic did not side with the Ottomans, but simply took a neutral position, the anti-Ottoman alliance would not have enough strength to continue the war. Having concluded peace, Murad II, at the head of his army, crossed over to Anatolia. Having learned about this, Ibrahim Bey stopped resistance and voluntarily surrendered to the mercy of the Sultan. Having achieved peace both inside and on the borders of his state, Murad, the second charter from state affairs, decided to transfer power to his 12-year-old son. Upon learning that a teenager had taken the Ottoman throne, Cardinal Julian Caesarini, who was not happy with the peace concluded with the Ottoman Empire, began to fuss. He persuaded the Ladislaw III to violate the signed treaty and resume hostilities against the Ottoman Empire, organizing a new crusade. Despot of Serbia Durad Brankovic expectedly refused to participate in the new campaign, which is why the Ladislaw lost a very important ally. Nevertheless, the Ladislaw III, in addition to Polish, Hungarian and Bohemian warriors, managed to gather under his banners Teutonic and Papal knights, as well as Bosnians, Croats and Bulgarians. The Crusader army planned to take advantage of the fact that almost the entire Ottoman army was in Anatolia to quickly march to the capital of the Ottoman Empire, the city of Edirne, and capture it. According to the plan developed by the Crusaders, the Venetian fleet was supposed to prevent the transfer of the Ottoman army from the Asian to the European coast, but the presence of Ottoman artillery on both the left and right banks of the straits forced the Venetians to abandon this idea. Nevertheless, the Crusaders could well have reached the Ottoman capital earlier than the Ottoman army, if not for the opponents of the Venetians, the Genoese, whose fleet quickly transferred the Ottoman army to Rumelia, which is why the Ottoman army led by Murad II, who again took the throne, arrived in Edirne faster than the Crusaders reached Varna. The Ottoman Sultan immediately advanced towards the Crusader army, planning to prevent them from continuing their advance into the interior of the country. On November 9, the Crusader army reached the outskirts of Varna and set up camp. On the same day, the Ottoman army approached the city from the west, which is why the Crusaders found themselves sandwiched between the Black Sea, the lake and the wooded slopes of the Frana Plateau. On November 10, a military council was held, at which it was decided to take up defense by building a Wagenburg and wait for the arrival of the Christian fleet, which was supposed to evacuate the army. Most council members supported this decision, but Hunyadi was categorically against it, since he believed that hiding behind carts was unworthy of a Crusader army. On the morning of November 10, the Crusaders formed their army in an arc between the lake and the Frana Plateau. In the center there were two royal banners, as well as the king himself with a personal detachment of Polish knights. On the left flank, which was headed by Hunyadi's son-in-law, Michael Shalagi, there were Hungarian banners, consisting of the most experienced warriors. The right flank of the Crusader army, which was led by Bishop John de Dominis of Oradea, also consisted of 5 banners, among which were the Wallachians under the command of Mircea II, the Crusaders under the command of Cardinal Caesarini, the Bosnians under the command of Bishop Raphael and the troops of the Croatian band Franco Talavac. Behind the army of the Crusaders was the Wagenburg, under the cover of which soldiers with hand bombards were stationed. The total number of the Crusaders' army ranged from 16 to 24,000 soldiers. The Ottoman army lined up at a distance of 5,000 steps from the enemy. In the center, Sultan Murad II with the Janissaries were stationed in fortified positions. On the right flank, commanded by the son-in-law of the Sultan of Gyeju, Karacha bin Abdullah Pasha, Anatolian troops were stationed, along with the troops of 2 Rumelian beys, who had experience in battles with European armies. On the left flank were the Rumelian horsemen, led by the Beylerbey of the Rumelia Sihabedin Pasha. The total number of the Ottoman army ranged from 40 to 60,000 soldiers. Before the start of the battle, strong winds arose, under the cover of which the units of the left flank of the Ottoman army managed to relocate to the plateau. Since the Crusaders did not notice this maneuver, the Ottoman troops were able to carry out a surprise attack. The Rumelian horsemen quickly attacked the 2 royal banners, as well as the 5 banners of the right flank of the Crusader army. Due to the fact that the royal banners consisted of well-armed, battle-hardened warriors, they were able to withstand an unexpected enemy attack, and 4 of the 5 banners on the right flank were not ready for an unexpected flank attack, which is why the onslaught of the Ottoman cavalry put them to flight. The Ottomans began pursuing the enemy running towards the lake. Only the Croatian troops of Franco-Talibac were able to take up defensive positions under the cover of the Wagenburg. At this time, the royal banners managed to push back the enemy who attacked them, after which Hunyadi sent one of the royal banners to help the Croats, whose arrival strengthened the defense of Wagenburg. Taking advantage of the confusion in the Crusader army caused by the sudden attack of the Rumelian horsemen, the Anatolian horsemen also went on the attack. This time the Crusaders expected an enemy attack, which is why a hail of arrows fell on the Anatolian horsemen. The massive shelling disrupted the Ottoman battle formations, so they were unable to withstand the onslaught of the left flank of the Crusader army, and despite their numerical advantage they were put to flight. Having made sure that the right flank of the Ottoman army was put to flight, Hunyadi hastily sent troops from his left flank to help the right flank, which only thanks to the Wagenburg held back the enemy's onslaught. The entry into battle of units from the left flank immediately changed the situation on the right flank of the Crusader army. The rapid onslaught of the Hungarian horsemen caught the Ottoman soldiers by surprise, which is why they began to retreat back. Realizing that, despite the numerical advantage, his army was retreating, Murad II was forced to send the Janissaries into battle, who were supposed to tip the balance in favor of the Ottomans. Fortunately for the Crusaders, the entry of the Janissaries into battle did not come as a surprise to them. Noticing that the enemy was bringing fresh forces into the battle, Hunyadi ordered his army to stop pursuing the Ottoman horsemen on the right flank and gather into a fist. The Janissary detachments descended the slope and began a massive bombardment of the Crusader army. Without waiting for the enemy to take up convenient positions, Hunyadi, gathering all his available forces into a fist, ordered an attack on the Janissaries. A bloody battle ensued, during which neither side could win a decisive victory. Nevertheless, the Crusaders still managed to push the Janissaries back to the Sultan's camp, but due to the fatigue of the troops, Hunyadi abandoned pursuit of the enemy, deciding to give his people a rest. The battle was supposed to continue in the morning of the next day, and it is not known who would have won the victory in the end. But at that moment the Ladislav III made a fatal mistake. He, at the head of his personal guard consisting of 500 Polish knights, attacked the retreating Janissaries, planning to break into the Ottoman camp on their shoulders and personally kill the Sultan. Since the Janissaries were experienced in war, they were able to quickly encircle and destroy the small Polish detachment. The Ladislav III was also killed in this battle. Since virtually no one from the Crusader army saw the death of the king, Hunyadi ordered his men to return to the camp under the cover of the Wagenburg. All night the Crusaders waited for the king's return, but in the morning the Ottomans, who managed to surround the enemy camp, showed the Crusaders the king's head impaled on a spear. Despite the fact that the death of the king undermined the morale of the Crusader army, Hunyadi, who was not accustomed to surrender, tried to recapture the body of the deceased the Ladislav. The Hungarians failed to return the body of the king, but most of the surviving Crusaders, led by Hunyadi, were still able to escape from the encirclement and return to their homeland. The defeat at the Battle of Varna weakened the anti-Ottoman alliance. Since the Hungarian and Polish kingdoms were left without a ruler and could not resist the Ottomans, Murad II managed to regain influence in the Balkans, lost as a result of previous defeats. The Battle of Varna is considered the last major crusade in history, which, due to the stupidity of the young king, ended in a catastrophic defeat. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so you don't miss new videos.